going to be going over the Rosedale Compensations project, and I want to point out a couple specific things. Right now I'm using a student's work as an example, and so some of the information is filled out, but not all of it. So we're going to go over that. One of the first things I want to point out is that when you have multiple worksheets in the entire workbook, when they are similar, so for instance here on this page we have Western, and I'm going to delete this because she had that written wrong. So this is Western Canada's different salespeople. They each have different sales eligible for bonus. They have various bonus rates, and what we need to figure out is what their bonus is, which is figured out by multiplying their bonus rate times the sales that was eligible. So if I look on the Eastern tab, and again I'm going to delete this so it says Eastern Canada, we see that it's set up the same exact way. Same sales, or different salespeople, but its salespeople are listed, the sales eligible for bonus is listed, same thing, bonus rate, etc. So all of it's the same. So one thing I can do is actually group these two sheets together so that when I put a formula into this cell and or format it, it will do the same thing on all the sheets. So the way I group them is by selecting the sheets, hitting Control, and selecting the next one I want to group. You'll see that there is a green underline there so that I know they're grouped. So watch. As I start to enter a formula that will calculate the bonus, so equal sign, and I should be using functions. So the function for multiplication, and if you don't know what it is, you can just go up to this FX and do insert function, type what it is I'm trying to do. So in this case, I'm trying to multiply, say go, and it'll pull up all the functions that have multiplication in it. Then I just read right here, multiplies all numbers given as arguments to see if that's the correct function. In this case, product is. I select OK or double click it, and what's going to happen is Excel is smart enough to try to automatically figure out what are the cells I want to multiply together. And in this case, it is the correct cell range, B5 through C5. So that's correct, and I say OK. And so as you can see, when I go into the formula bar, that function, product, will apply the multiplication arithmetic to this cell range. So it's really important that I understand that this function does this calculation to this cell range. So to show you a comparison, if I was to click here on total compensation, you'll see that it's almost correct. But what happened is this student actually wanted to do the calculation. So they said, oh, well, I'm trying to do D5 plus E5. But really, what you're doing is selecting the cells you want it to do that calculation to. So this should always be a cell range. You don't actually do the calculation. Okay. So now I can see, and I want to use the fill handle, right? Drag it down so that it will automatically insert all that information. And now I'm going to ungroup them. And all I do is go back down, right click, and say ungroup. And you'll see that that formula and the formatting has now been applied to everything in the sheet. So that's nice. And so that's going to save us a lot of time, right? So now the next part of this assignment was to create a third page which would summarize the total compensation, base salary, and bonus for each region. And so what I'm going to do is start writing total compensation, total bonus, and total salary, base salary. And because, I'm going to make this a little bigger because my wants to fit it, I want to start with Eastern, then I want Western, then I want both regions. So total compensation. So another shortcut that I'm going to do is instead of going to the sheet, looking at what the total compensation is, trying to remember what the number is, and going back and typing in that number, instead I'm going to use a cell reference. Now, we learned what cell references are because a cell reference, if I go back to this is a cell reference. I'm referencing that cell in the formula, right? So this is a cell reference. Now I'm going to show you another kind of cell reference where I'm just going to select where I want the information to show up, which is in this. I'm going to hit the equal sign. I'm going to go to the Eastern tab, and I'm going to select that total compensation. So in this case, it's 13,000 because that's the total compensation for each of those salespeople. And then I'm just going to hit enter before I go back to that summary sheet and see what happens. It automatically pulls it into that cell. So if I looked in the formula bar, what it's saying is, oh, that's the Eastern sheet, cell F9. And I will just quickly do this for each. Again, hitting that enter before I go back to the document. And now I'll do it for the Western. Now I'll go back for the total bonus. Now I'll go back for the total base salary. Okay. Then I have to figure out the total compensation, total bonus, total base salary for both regions. So the way I would do that is by putting in a formula that's going to calculate them. And so this is one way that I just click and drag, and I can easily do that. And so now I have the totals, and now I'm going to do some cell styles there, make them look fancy. I'm actually going to fix these so that it makes them so the other thing I want to do is always organize my charts so that everything kind of is nice and neat and orderly. So obviously that looks better than having it hang over. And now I need to insert a chart that just shows total compensation. That's it. And it's a chart of my choice. I see total compensation there. Obviously, this is the information I want. But I'm going to actually select too much information, right? I'm going to select it all. And I'm going to go to Insert, Recommended Charts. And in this case, I'm going to make a bar chart or a clustered column chart, let's say. So I'm going to say OK. Now it's my responsibility to look at this chart. Is this chart looking accurate? Well, one thing that's wrong is it says chart title. That's not right. Also, it has way too much information. See how it's compensation, bonus, and base salary. So there's way too much. So I'm going to go to this filter button, click filter, go down to select data, and I'm going to delete those two because I don't need them. And this looks correct because that horizontal axis labels, which is right here, they say the correct things. So I'm going to say OK and see if it changes. Oh, look at that. Not only did my title become correct, but now I show Eastern, Western, and both regions. And that's how I want to go about doing this. So it's your responsibility to always look at the chart and make sure that it actually says what you want it to. Now I'm going to slide that over and put it underneath so that it looks nice and neat underneath that. And so, for example, what I'm talking about is here in this example, she tried to do each salesperson, which was great. But see how it says Series 1? Well, that's not really telling me anything. So all I have to do is go back into that filter, go down to Select Data, and here where it says Series, I'm going to edit it. My series name is, well, what I'm actually doing is total compensation for each salesperson. So I just select that, and this is correct. The values were correct, so I can say OK. And now I say OK. And look at that. It says total compensation instead. What's nice is that because we've linked all these things and because we did those cell references, look what happens. Let's say I'm on the Eastern one, and Watson's base salary I'm going to increase to $5,000. Because everything's linked, look how it automatically brought that up, automatically increased that, and then when I go to the summary, see how it changed it. So if I had just written the total amount there, if I had to change something on this, it wouldn't have changed it automatically here. And I'll show you one more time. We'll go on the Eastern. Let's increase the base salary to $10,000. It changes everything there, brings it up, and then look, it automatically changes it. And that's why we do it that way.